Dominique, thanks so much for being here today and for chatting with me. How are you?
I'm doing good, and good morning, Heidi. Thank you for reaching out for this interview.
Yeah, of course. I have to tell you that my very first impression of you came from a video that someone tagged us in YouthWorks. And
Oh
I
man.
think you were on a trip with some students, a YouthWorks trip, and
Uh-huh.
you all were serving together at maybe like a nonprofit that does thrift shop or something,
Hmm.
but you found a hot dog costume.
Oh
And so
yeah.
the kids are like sorting the clothes, sorting the donations during their service time with YouthWorks, and all of a sudden here comes you out in the hot dog costume, and everybody just starts cracking up. So that was my very first introduction to you.
That sounds like me.
Yes, so honestly, it looked like a lot of fun. It looked like you were making the service day a blast.
It's a great
So
time. In serving, we got to have a fun time with it as well. And so, yeah, it was a joy.
absolutely. That's awesome. Well, again, thanks for being here. And could you just tell us like a little bit about who you are and what you do today and where you live? Just, yeah, a little bit about
Yeah.
Domo.
Yeah, my name is Dominique Hampton, but everyone can call me Damo. I'm born and raised in Kansas City. Um, right now, I work for a utility organization in Kansas City that handles electricity and water, but I do marketing and communications. And so I
Mm.
do everything creative. So video production, photography, graphic design. I handle a lot of the internal communications, newsletters, and things like that. And so, yeah, that's what I went to school for, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, and okay, so the reason we're talking today is because at some point you were on summer staff with YouthWorks. And so tell me a little bit about what community you were in and what years you did that and just, yeah, where you were with that.
Yeah, so I found out about YouthWorks actually through my grad school internship advisor. And so I needed an internship. I was getting my MBA at the time in organizational leadership and management. And so I told him I wanted to do something within like nonprofit, faith-based nonprofit ministry sort of thing. And he found YouthWorks. And so I
Awesome.
applied and eventually I got the position. And so that was in 2021. And I was a site director out in Savannah, Georgia. Such a
Nice.
beautiful, beautiful small city.
Everyone loves Savannah. Well,
It's
when they go on a
it's
YouthWorks
so
trip,
dope.
they all love Savannah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so dope. And so yeah, we was out in Savannah, Georgia. Um, it was a team of four at the time. Um, and so, yeah, that's where I first started with YouthWorks. And then the following year, I actually did a YouthWorks X trip, I believe. And that was in Birmingham, Alabama. And so just me and another uh, partner, and we led that trip for the week. And so those are the two YouthWork trips that I did.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, that's great. So you were down in Savannah. Like I said, that's a favorite. People love that.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so we talk a lot at YouthWorks about getting real world experience because we know that, learning in a classroom, learning in the pew at church, these are all really important.
Yeah.
But there's a different kind of learning that happens when you're actually doing something, like
Mhm.
you're having to actually take those principles that you're learning and apply them. So, is there something like during your time at YouthWorks that you look back and you're like, oh, I could not have just learned that like from a book or in a classroom. Like I learned that because I was kind of, put into the fire a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, man. The biggest thing, I mean, that I learned, especially as being like a site director, was just being able to manage so many different people.
Yeah.
And even if you don't have it all under control, keep it under control to the best you can. Because when
Yes.
you have 50, 60, maybe 70 kids on a site, that's a lot of moving bodies and a lot of moving pieces. And then you also have a small team that you're overseeing, there's just so many emotions, sicknesses,
So
uh,
true.
plans that can get disrupted, and just
Yes.
having everybody come to you for like questions and answers, and you being like, okay, let me figure out the solution to this problem. And so
Yeah.
I feel like you can learn all the, especially at the time I was getting my grad degree, you can learn about, different management strategies
Yeah.
and how to foster great organization or communication and all these
Yeah.
sorts of things. But like until you're in it, until you have people looking to you for direction, until plans are getting messed up and
Yes.
inside you're a little frustrated and maybe even a little bit discouraged because the weather came for 10 minutes, but now you can't paint
Yes.
outside anymore. Um, Being able to just think on the fly and work with your team to come up with solutions and just be real and honest with the people. Like, hey, this was the original plan. This is what happened. We're
Yeah.
working as quickly to find a backup solution. And I love church folk. They're so
Yeah.
understanding and so
Yeah.
gracious and like, oh, whatever you need, like we're here to
Yes.
support you. And so it's a good environment to have those growing pains in because there is
Yeah.
so much just room for grace and learning and they know we're young too and we want them to have a great experience. And so having that real world experience in a safe environment, to say, of sorts, and then translating now when I'm working within an organization with people from different backgrounds and who's been in the industry longer or for only a few weeks, it's really carried over.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is, like you said, I love that you said it's kind of a safe place to learn that because I do think that that is part of the beauty of it is you are getting, thrown into the fire a little bit. Like
Yeah,
you're like, you gotta learn on the go, but
yeah,
there's also support, and there's also grace from the people. And I think everybody is wanting you to win, like everybody is
hmm,
wanting your leadership to succeed,
yeah.
which is probably, just a great way to learn. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I love that you said that. And um, what do you think, like, what part of your summer experience kind of pushed you outside of your comfort zone? I'm sure there were many moments where you have to be
Oh
pushed a
wow.
little bit, but yeah, tell me a little bit about like what that is like.
Yeah, there was a week when two of our team members were down. Like they were both just really sick. And so it's just me and my boy Samuel. Really essentially doing a lot of the grunt work. And so
Yeah.
our CSCs could still help coordinate and make calls and stuff, but in terms of doing meals and visiting sites and all of that, it was just really up to the two of us.
Yeah,
And that was a little bit uncomfortable
for sure.
because I mean we still wanted to give each other time to have just a moment to breathe, but um when you have people set up to handle certain responsibilities and you don't necessarily know the depths of what they do, like
Yeah.
you have an understanding, but like it's their
Yeah.
responsibility, so to try to take on some of that and learn it while also increasing your amount of workload was a
Yes.
challenge.
Yes.
Um, but we got through it, and it was a great week. And
Yeah.
just we were so encouraged by the end of it. One, because the other two members were healthy again and got over their
Yes, that's a
sickness, and
blessing.
they were good. But then also, it's like, okay, like man, you can throw anything at us, and we will find a way. Like resiliency, like we may bend, but we won't break. And I think
Yeah.
that's always uncomfortable, but once you realize that you can do it, I feel like the
Yes.
sky's the limit.
Yeah, that is such a great point that there's like a moment, especially when you are a young leader, that you don't really know your full capabilities,
Yeah,
until you get kind of stretched. And
yeah.
so I can imagine that probably built a lot of confidence in you to be like, this was hard. I
Yeah,
didn't think I could do it, but look, we did it,
yeah.
So
Right. We
like
were like, we could do
confidence building.
anything. Yeah, hey, you
Exactly.
guys, we don't even need you anymore. We got
Yeah,
you for the
exactly.
rest of
We
the
got this. We got this.
summer.
That's awesome.
No.
So you mentioned you have a career, kind of like maybe a dual career right now, working in utilities and working in marketing. And are there, now you took some students on a trip, so are you involved in your church, or how did you end up being a trip leader?
Oh, yes, yes. So,
Yeah.
how did I almost forget about that? Yes, so at my previous church, we had I was a teenage ministry youth leader,
Yeah.
and so YouthWorks had a special opportunity to bring underprivileged students on a YouthWorks mission trip. And so I worked with the different stakeholders in that to give the teenagers in my church an opportunity to go on a mission trip
I
because it's
love that.
something that I don't think any of them ever had the opportunity to go on. And it's not,
Yeah.
it's really something, um, it's a, it's almost like a historical Black church. And so
Yeah.
it's almost something that's not common
Okay.
in
Yeah.
that type of ministry. And so to be able to provide them with that opportunity to go to a different community and serve, um, it was a dope experience just meeting with the parents, sharing about what YouthWorks is, um,
Right.
what we'll be doing, how this will grow our teenagers and challenge them in a lot of ways. And so, yeah, we I think we got about 6 or 7 students, and we went to Indianapolis, and
Awesome.
yeah, it was such a great experience. You know, you always when you start leaving, there's such a sadness because you're like, man,
Yes.
like there may not be another opportunity, and like when all of us will be together, serving,
Right.
sleeping on air mattresses,
Yeah.
being exhausted by day
Yes.
4, and still showing up like, hey, we are gonna pour ourselves out,
Yeah.
and be the hands and feet of Christ. And so that was such an amazing experience and an
Yeah.
opportunity. Just hearing all the stories coming back when we got back to Kansas City from the youth and their parents just being so grateful. It
Yeah.
was awesome.
That's so cool. And sleeping on that air mattress will build some character. Like you will,
It will.
you
It
will have
will.
to, you'll have to exhibit the fruit of the spirit after a couple of nights of sleeping on an
Yeah.
air mattress. So, yeah. So if you think about kind of your experience with YouthWorks, during the summer and like that leadership role, and then you kind of think to who you are today and what you're doing today, either in your career or your personal life, or just who you've become. Like, what correlations or connections do you see from kind of that experience that you had to where you are today?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is just helping in terms of like leading like large groups. And so at my church now, Five Culture Kansas City, we there's a lot of just different opportunities to serve
Mhm.
all throughout the church. And so right now I'm leading a connect group. And so there's
Awesome.
about 25 young adults just like me, and we meet every other week, and we go over that week's message, we get into the word, and we really just hang out in fellowship.
Yeah.
So even on our off weeks, we'll go to an amusement park,
Mhm.
go have a movie night or a game night, or just, Friendsgiving or something like that. And it's really just made me comfortable with being able to lead and interact in a large group. I've helped lead a community service opportunity. We do 2 big serve days every year. And
Okay.
so I helped lead a small group to a food kitchen, and we serve those in the community. Who were unsheltered and hungry. And so my experience with YouthWorks and just partnering with so many different nonprofits and ministries
Oh
and a
yeah.
community that I'm not from, and just
Right.
getting to know them and learn about what they do, how much more impactful can I be when I'm in my own community, when I'm with people who I may have a relationship with, or I know the areas that are struggling and facing different challenges. And so I feel like that's the biggest thing that um, that's really stuck with me. It's just being able to be comfortable in group ministry.
Yeah, that is huge. And I love that you're still involved in serving in different ways. I think that's really our heart, you know. It's one thing for somebody to have a great experience in the summer, whether
Yeah,
that's like a student who's on a week-long trip or, a young adult who's helping with leading the trips.
yeah.
It's one thing to do that, but I think it's another thing. We always talk about launching lives of service. We
Hmm.
want people to leave their YouthWorks experience and we want them to go back to where they live and
Yeah,
keep serving,
yeah,
like we really feel like that's a huge part of being a Christ follower is living a life of service,
yeah,
and so I love to hear that you're doing that because that's the goal. Like that's
yeah.
that's what we're after.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Um, what do you think? I'm wondering like if there's something about your time at YouthWorks that kind of changed the way that you view people.
Hmm.
Is there anything that like happened or just your experience where it kind of opened your eyes to like maybe dealing with different kinds of people or just maybe the way that you would approach different people?
Yeah, yeah, man. There was just so I think the coolest thing just with interacting with all the different church groups that came is that like this is getting a bit more theological, but like there's churches from every different denominations.
Yeah.
And some are a lot more relaxed and chill.
Uh-huh.
And then others are a bit more like,
Yep.
disappointed and all these sorts of
Yeah.
things. And like whatever the denominations, all the churches could come together and serve under one mission. And I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes that can get lost in all of our different theological camps and beliefs, and whether we wear suits and ties to
Yep.
service or jeans and a ball cap, you know what I mean? And we
Absolutely.
all have these differences, but we are all children of God, and
Yeah.
we all come under one name
Yeah.
and Jesus Christ. And I think we lose sight of that sometimes. And when we are moving together as one, the kingdom of God can be so much more impactful because we're not separating or dividing over small issues, secondary issues,
Yeah.
tertiary issues, but we're standing for the gospel. And that's what brings us all together because without the gospel, um, we would not have this new life that we've been given. And
Yeah.
so keeping sight of that and remembering that we are brothers and sisters, whether we're from Carolina or we're
Yeah.
from Kansas City on the West Coast in California, we can, whenever we're together, we can do great things for the kingdom. So I think that was I think just the biggest thing. And it's allowed me to be more open because I have my own biases and like
Right.
my own belief systems and
Of
that this is
course, we
how
all
things should
do.
be. And you're like, wait, things don't necessarily have to be this way.
Right.
Maybe a preference or just my
Mhm.
opinion, but it's not a gospel hill to die on.
Yeah.
So
I love that because I think that's one of the things I love about working full time for YouthWorks is we are a multi-denominational organization. So, on our staff, we have people who are non-denominational, we have people who are Catholic, we have people who are Lutheran, we have, Baptist background, like a little bit of everybody. And I think that there are so few places today in our culture where we're actually coming together.
yeah,
Like you said, we have so many differences and so many reasons to like stay apart, if you will. But when you come together, like there's something really special about that. And I think that serving others provides that like umbrella, where
yeah,
it's almost like safe to come together and like, hey, you agree that we should be loving people like Jesus and,
yeah,
serving people in need? Okay, cool, me too, So
100%. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. That's great. What would you say, like, your experience, during that summer and your connection to YouthWorks, like, how would you say that that shaped your calling and kind of who you are today and what you do, with your life and kind of how you've oriented your life.
Yeah, I think it's kind of helped solidify my call to be like a leader of people, but like a leader of people that like is down in the mud with them. And so walking hand to hand with them, being real, being authentic, being vulnerable. Um, and I think I was doing college ministry. Some friends and I started a ministry on our campus. But that was around my peers and people I was friends with, like people I knew,
Yeah.
and college, you're all going through it together.
Yes.
Um, but then to go into another environment and new people coming in and out every week and still
Hmm.
being, I mean, I was a site director, so there's
Yeah.
some level of like, okay, like you're the leader, but just because you have a title doesn't necessarily mean that you are impactful. Um,
Hmm.
but to be able to effectively lead not just the people who were there, but more importantly, my team,
Yeah.
I think I think that kind of solidified me to be like, okay, like my call is to help build others up and lift other people up. And so for me, it started with my team. And like there were times when they were discouraged
Hmm.
and frustrated, and I would just be pouring into them and like lifting them up
Yeah.
and exhorting them and all these sorts of things. And just watching them grow and develop over the summer. As I was growing and developing,
Yeah.
because I was calling my area director.
Happening in real time. Yeah.
Yeah, getting poured into, but just knowing that like you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't need to have all the answers to be able to pour into, disciple, or to help someone else. Like
Yes.
give them what you know. And if you don't know, try to figure it out or point
Yes.
them to somebody who may know. But I
Right.
think sometimes we can get frozen up and freeze like, oh, I can't articulate the gospel as well as this, or man, I can't preach as well as this, or I'm not as hospitable as this person. And God has given each of us gifts and continue to like fan that flame and allow God to use you. And like, when you just submit yourself to Christ and just watch him just grow and use you as a vessel because ultimately it's not on our own power, not on our own strength or the way that we can articulate ourselves, but just submitting it down and letting God work through us. And so, yeah, I think that really solidified it. Like, the a godly type of confidence within
Yes.
me, like, okay, God, like, I can't do this and you can use me. So
Yes.
use me.
So good. So good. I love that. Um, okay, so you work kind of a secular job. You don't work for a church. You don't work for a
Yeah,
Christian nonprofit. I
yeah,
think that sometimes when people think about a youth work summer, and coming on as a community host for the summer, they think like, well, I'm not going to be a pastor, so, maybe that's not like relevant to my career path.
yeah,
So which we fully believe, you don't have to be a pastor to make an impact in the world around you. I mean, we love pastors, right?
yeah,
That's great if that's the path that God has you on.
yeah,
If your path is going to lead you towards working for a nonprofit, beautiful. We love
yeah,
that. We have a lot of people who come through YouthWorks who end up in that path. But for many people, they're not going to go down that path. And
right.
so, and we need people who are working in our businesses, who are working in education.
Yeah,
We need the kind of leaders that are the kind of leader you're describing right now, like all the things that you have learned and gleaned through the years, like
yeah,
selfless leaders, godly leaders, servant leaders. So we need that in all spheres, not just in, Christian and nonprofit spheres.
right.
So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about maybe how some of these skills carry into your daily job that is a secular job in a regular workplace, you know?
Yeah, 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 100%. Like everything you said, like if everybody who has a passion for Jesus worked in a church, we wouldn't really reach a lot of people. If we're just being honest. Um,
Yes.
and so, yeah, the way that YouthWorks has helped translate over or carry over into my workplaces. I mean, my first job out of college was working with high school students. I was like a college advisor. And so we were
Yeah.
going into classrooms, doing big presentations, helping them with like college applications, financial aid, all these sorts of things. And so I was still leading
Yep.
groups of people. It wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily walking through the gospel, but I was
Right.
helping them figure out their plans after high school, whether it's
Yeah.
going to the workforce or going to furthering their education. And so same thing, we would do college trips
Hmm.
overnight to different states so they could visit, go on tours and
Mm.
and just like in YouthWorks, you're dealing with teenagers, things go wrong, people get
Yes.
sick,
Yeah.
kids do what they're not supposed to do, and all these sorts
Uh-huh.
of things. And so again, that the people management skills and all of
Yes.
those sorts of things. But even bigger, it's just being able to think on the fly and adapt on the fly.
Yes.
There's this belief that once you become an adult and get around a bunch of other adults, that everyone has it together, and it's absolutely not true.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh, y'all be winging it too. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're
Okay, we're
doing.
all winging it.
we're, we're
Good.
all
Good to
winging it,
know.
and
Yeah.
a lot of the times that's what it feels like we're doing. And so problems happen, and quick solutions are needed. And just
Yes.
again, that ability from doing it when I was in YouthWorks, when I was tired and I was sleeping on the
Yeah.
air mattress, and it's long days, and I'm pouring out and pouring out. If I could do it then I could definitely do it now when I get my rest and I get to go
Yes.
to the gym and work out and I
Yeah.
eat meals that I've cooked and things like that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so it's definitely carried over. And again, just that confidence of like knowing that like, okay, I can handle challenges that are thrown my way. And so whether it's I'm working with my teammates, whether I'm talking with the execs or I'm talking to giving a presentation to people in our community, um, I always remember the things that I've done in the past. And it's like, okay, if I've been able to do it then I already know, I already have the proof and the evidence that I am capable of doing this thing. And so
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing that YouthWorks just gave me is it's just
Yes.
confidence. And confidence happens by having a trail of proof and examples of things that you've done. And so, yeah,
Yeah. No, that's incredible. And I love that you said that um, you get confidence from like looking at the things you've accomplished behind you. And so it's so true. So you get a lot of reps, through a
yeah,
youth work summer, like you get a
a
lot of
lot of reps.
experience. Yes, a lot of reps.
We were
So
not thriving. It was like as
yeah.
soon as we were like, we are thriving, like we can do this. It's like,
Yes.
oh, we only have 2 more weeks left.
Right. Yeah, that's so
It's
true.
like, well, okay, we spent the majority of the summer learning and
Yes.
banging our knee and hitting our heads, and then once the moment
Exactly.
we're like, oh, we are like an effective team. It's like, oh,
Yes.
this is the last week of the summer. Time to
Yeah.
go home. It's like,
You made it. Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. As we kind of start to wrap up here, I'm wondering just, is there any story from your summer that you still tell today? Like, is there like a moment that you kind of find yourself like telling people?
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, the the stories that I always tell. I mean, foot washing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. I mean, if you've been on a YouthWorks trip or you've worked with YouthWorks, foot washing
Yeah.
is the thing. And I always tell people when I talk about like my YouthWorks experience and stuff, like serving, of course, and doing ministry and just building relationships um, with the kids and also the adult leaders and things of that nature. But there is there's just something different when you spend time getting to know somebody and know people and you're serving along with them, and then everybody's exhausted and worn out and ready to go home and all these things, and
Yeah.
we get to the last night and then we model what Christ did to the disciples by the washing of
Mhm.
the feet. And there's just a certain level of humility but
Yeah.
also honor that goes in to being able to like serve somebody in that way. Um,
Right.
and that's something that always just replays in my mind, like being servants, being foot washers,
Hmm.
regardless of who it is.
Yeah.
When you're on a YouthWorks trip, the people coming on the trip aren't necessarily getting pedicures.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like
They've been
just the
working all
nature,
week. Yeah.
like I mean, we think back to the story, um, like the disciples, they were wearing sandals, walking miles and miles through dust and dirt and all these things and the
Yeah.
rocks. And so for our Savior to be able to humble himself and and, and do that act,
Yeah.
and for us to be able to do that for others, it's just, I know I'm saying the same thing, but I just, unless you've done it, unless you've been there on a night when tears are falling and weeping, um, and you just don't truly understand the impact of it. And one of the most beautiful things is when we would have adult leaders that would come up to us and be like, "Hey, we want to wash your feet," and you're like,
Yeah.
"Like, no, I'm supposed to serve you." Like,
Yeah.
no, but it also is like another act of humility. Be like, okay, like we've done it for you, and if you want to return, then for sure. And it's just a
Yeah.
special type of bond and like a moment that happens. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That is so great. And it's funny because I think foot washing is it can be awkward. I think it's a very vulnerable kind of
yeah,
moment, and I always like I've been in the room a few times at the end of a trip when it's happening and you see everybody kind of like "Ugh," like I don't know about this. This
yeah,
feels a little awkward or
yeah,
maybe this feels like kind of churchy, you know what I mean? Like if
yeah,
or just it's
for sure.
odd. It
Yeah,
doesn't feel natural. But there's something really beautiful. I think you see the whole like room shift through
yeah,
that process and you watch it happen because it's like there's something really powerful in the example of Jesus that,
yeah,
like you said, it's a humility thing and it's a like being willing to serve everyone thing. And
yeah,
so it's like maybe that's one of those practices from the scriptures that we don't really do anymore, but
yeah,
you have this opportunity to do it kind of at the end of this week when you've learned to really lock arms and
yeah.
serve together. And I'm always shocked at how the atmosphere in the room changes through that process and how people are just really yeah, they're really touched and I think they're really inspired to continue serving when they leave and it's a really beautiful thing. So yeah, I am with you. I've watched it unfold and if it's something that, like I said, a lot of the students are kind of like, what is going on here? And then by the end, they're crying. They've had this really
Yeah,
beautiful experience. And I think that that is kind of the power of like embodying that practice that
yeah,
Jesus modeled for us. And we don't really understand it, but it does something in us.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. Damo, I so appreciate you. Thank you for taking time to talk to me today. I know why everybody at YouthWorks loves you now. This is my first time getting to meet you, but I've heard nothing but incredible, things about
Yeah,
you. And so I just truly appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today and for encouraging everybody and, just like reminding us that there are such long-term um, results
yeah,
from having these experiences with YouthWorks where we can look at a leader like yourself who's leading in the marketplace, who's leading in the church space, and who is just really, like I said, orienting your life around service and healthy leadership. And that's like a beautiful thing. So thank you
yeah.
so much.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out and for the interview. I love YouthWorks, and although like my career doesn't lend itself to being able to, take weeks off to serve and things
Yeah.
like that, I always want to try to be a part of YouthWorks in any way I can and help out. And so whether that's donating or maybe, hey, pulling up for a few days in the site that's
Yeah.
in Kansas City or
Yes.
whatever, I'm always here for YouthWorks. So.
I so appreciate that. Thank you for doing this.